How's everybody doing? Welcome to the A Fragrant Mind Podcast. My name is Fragrant Derek, and I'd like to welcome everybody to the amazing Juneteenth episode. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a holiday that I love to celebrate every year. And ironically, last year, I celebrated this holiday early on in the A Fragrant Mind, A Fragrant State of Mind universe when I very first started, the channel. I don't know, I knew I wanted to do kind of like holiday specials, and if you watch a lot of my content, I've always done these sort of holiday specials. And the very first Juneteenth episode, I had an amazing perfumer by the name of Chavalia, who owns a fragrance house called Pink Mahoghany. And very early on, when I was just getting started, she was amazing enough to send me some samples of her fragrances, and I was completely blown away by them. And I had asked her to be on just kind of record a video, interviewing her, and we did it. And it was very low quality. The camera work was terrible. It was grainy, but it was an amazing interview, and I really enjoyed interviewing her. And so this year, we have grown significantly, and now we have the podcast, and we are officially on episode 15, which is today. And I said, I want to do another Juneteenth episode. And of course, I had to reach out to Chevalier and have her come back on to the official podcast. So we have her coming on today, ladies and gentlemen, from the house of Pink Mahoghany, Chevalier. And I'm super excited about this episode. I hope you guys are ready for it, because I am. Let's go ahead and roll the intro, and then we're just going to bring her on because I want to get right into this. Okay, guys? So yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Here we go.
Welcome to A Fragrant Mind Podcast, the ultimate fraghead show featuring Fragrant Derek.
Look good, feel good, smell good.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? I
I'm
love
good.
that
How are
intro.
you? I
Oh,
love
thank you
that
very
intro.
much. So welcome to the podcast. So a little bit different than our first time, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
very
it's
much
kind of
so.
funny when I go through those old videos. It's kind of cringy to watch, to see like, yeah, I don't know, just something about it, watching uh, the early uh, the early videos that I was doing, and how nervous I was, and how I mean, I was passionate, but I was also super nervous, and I would run over words. I probably still do that, but um, yeah. So I'm super excited to have you back on. I was thinking about it. It's like we've come full circle. You know what I mean? So it's super special. So
Right.
tell me what's been going on with Pink Mahoghany over the last year since we last talked.
Well, I think
I think I'm
echoing.
Oh, are you? Hold on one
echoing.
second.
I
Let
don't
me
know
see
if
if I
you're
can
able
fix
to.
that. 1 second.
Okay.
I apologize. Okay, let's see. No, not giving me that option. Um, 1 second. Okay, that's on. Nope, that's not gonna let me change that. Let me. You know what I'm gonna do? Is that better?
Let me see.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah,
All right,
that's much better. That's perfect.
all right. So tell me what's been going on
Okay.
since
Thank you
last
so
year.
much. Whew. Well, I've definitely grown as far as my clientele. I do create fragrances for other, I don't like to say small brands, but boutique brands that are
Yeah.
just starting out. That has grown. Of course, the twins have grown. If those of you follow my journey, you know that I'm a homeschooling mother. They're fifth graders this year. And with that comes even more of my time being spent on homeschool and making sure that they're okay. Um, and I'm also launching two new fragrances this summer and just
Yeah.
staying busy, staying busy. The summers seem to be, I think, my most busy time, usually around May to about September. And then from September to late February, it kind of slows down a little bit. So definitely staying busy. I'm not one to try to launch in a particular season. It's just when I get the inspiration to do so. Never in the history of Pink Mahogany have I launched two fragrances back to back, with the exception of the Minimalist, which is just the same fragrance but two different versions. So to launch two completely different fragrances back to back is a
Yeah.
rarity for the brand, but I'm
Yeah,
excited.
no, I know a lot goes into, releasing a fragrance and kind of everything leading up to it. I imagine that, I've never done that myself, but I know other, brand owners and things, and I talk to them, and it's daunting, what goes into that. And but so I have this question because I've been talking to a lot of people in the industry, and politics aside, all that stuff, with the current economy and everything happening with the wars, the war happening, and all of this stuff. Have you noticed any major effects to your business there in Texas? And like, how is that affecting you on your level? Or I guess, has your community been able to keep you going um, through all this?
I think I'm definitely feeling it. Just to speak to the tariffs
Yeah.
specifically, I know that they don't officially take effect until, a few more
Right.
weeks from now, but I have definitely been feeling it. I have not made any international purchases since, but just purchasing within the United States. And I'll give an example. And I'm not going to give the brand or the company, but I do have an account with a very known company that sells packaging supplies, and they are within the
Right.
state. They're in the state of Texas. They are located literally 2 hours from me, so I could drive to go pick up my supplies. I went to place an order for packaging peanuts and I believe some packaging tape. And just those two items alone, the shipping was $217. So I had to make a decision. Do I continue to support this company paying this outrageous fee for shipping, even though they're just 2 hours from me? Or do I go back to Amazon, which there have been issues with Amazon as well, with boycotts and things of that nature. So with this territory comes tough decisions. And sometimes there's not a perfect decision. There's just what works for me or as a solopreneur in this particular climate. And it's a lot that goes into every part of packaging, as you mentioned before, but I've definitely seen it and felt it
Mm.
on that side. As far as sales, they wax and wane. That comes with the territory of a niche brand, I believe. We don't have huge marketing strategies in place as of yet. So I've seen some differences just in the the habits of customers and their purchasing habits over the last
Yeah.
couple of months.
No, it's a little scary, I think, for everybody. I think the one thing that uh, the perfume world, as well as this community, has going for it is we are a community. We're a family, and even you have this amazing kind of, you've done this groundwork where you've pulled together, your supporters, and is it the Fragmally? Is that what it's called? Or yeah. So yeah,
Yeah,
if
the
you guys don't know,
fragment.
so she has this sort of like email list, as well as like a page on her website where her close followers and people that have purchased before and stuff kind of come together, and they can share um different things and talk about the brand and talk about things they love, et cetera, et cetera. And it's really cool, and it kind of creates this sort of community within the brand, and I think that's something that a lot of people overlook, especially, because I think, this industry is, um, it's supported mainly by the, uh, the people who are invested in, buying multiple bottles, repeat purchases, things like that, Um,
Mhm.
there's a lot of people out there that aren't really connected to perfumery, and they'll go and buy one fragrance, and like my dad, I think he bought a bottle in when he was like 25, and I think he still has that sucker sitting in his closet. So, I mean, those people aren't the ones that are, keeping the doors open, but it's the community. And I think you've really tapped into that really well. So that's super cool. Um,
Thank you.
So it's Juneteenth. Obviously, this is the Juneteenth episode. Can you tell me a little bit about what it was like for you getting started, getting your business started, any kind of challenges you may have faced early on, potential benefits of doing what you do in the community that you serve? Like, can you tell me about that?
Absolutely. Um, some of the challenges when I first started, the first memory that comes to mind is me trying to figure out where is my place. I'm a new brand. I only have, I think at the time I had maybe two or three fragrances. And they're what I call in the OG collection. Two of them are not even available on the website. They're by special request only. And I was really trying to get my footing because at the time when I launched Pink Mahoghany in 2005, it was right before I started my career as a
Mm.
music teacher, elementary music teacher. So when I was bringing these fragrances and samples to my colleagues, and they were saying, you need to get this out here. People need to experience your work. So they were like, I know of a flea market or the farmer's market. They have vendors, and I think that you should go. And I believed in opportunity, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go and get that experience of direct sales. It was definitely not my market. My fragrances were out of the price range for those who were at the farmers market. And even though I was the only fragrance brand, they had candles, you had room sprays that were a fraction of the cost of what I was selling my fragrances for, my perfumes. So I think that was the first challenge that I incurred or that I experienced was trying to figure out who my demographic was, who my true target
Yeah.
market was. Because at the time I was just trying to get my feet wet. So from there, then it was, okay, how do I establish Pink Mahogany as a brand that is of a particular caliber? I'm not using oils, fragrance oils. These are not knockoffs. How do I separate myself from those brands? Because at the flea market or at the farmer's market, it was quite a few of those particular companies and brands that were selling knockoffs or the perfume oils, and you really don't know what's in them. If you like Tom Ford, you'll like this. So separating my brand from these brands, not to say that something is wrong with them because there's a market for everybody, but that just was not my target market. So that was another challenge, especially being an African American in that space, being self taught. It was not necessarily feeling like I had to prove myself, so to speak, but it was, I am serious about
Yeah.
my craft. And even though I have taken myself to school, I have still learned the tips and the tools and the tricks of the trade, just as someone who has gone to the Givaudan school or any of the other perfumery schools. So those were the two challenges that I think really stand out for me, along with the financial bootstrapping, not having any major capital to start your business and reinvesting, even now, reinvesting to a certain extent the proceeds or the sales that come in or the funding that comes in from people just wanting to donate. They may not necessarily like perfume, but they just want to support. So reinvesting that wisely back into the business. I think those are probably my top three challenges. So it'd be finances, setting Pink Mahogany apart, and learning my
Yeah.
demographic
Yeah, I
target
think
market.
it's definitely, I think a lot of people don't realize that, like they buy a bottle and they think, oh, this must be like some major big organization or something. And a lot of these, indie and niche perfumes are literally made by folks like yourself who are just, uh, literally hand packing, doing everything, in a small, uh, you know, place. Like even here, like this whole studio is literally my spare bedroom. You know what I mean? And I
Hmm.
run two businesses out of this little studio. You know, and you know, I think what you had gone through sounds like, you were trying to find a way to like carve out, your special niche in the market. And that's huge challenge a lot of folks have is, well, what makes me unique to everyone else? And I'll tell you my experience with your fragrances and my take on what makes you unique, and you could tell me if I'm right or yeah. But so when I receive, like, I'll give you an example, and I want to pull this out because I think, and I want to get into this because I know we don't have a ton of time today, but this is a fragrance that you sent me that really blew me away. And I felt like it represented who Pink Mahoghany is, who Chavalia is as an artist in the perfume realm. And it's such an important story, and it's so tied to today, or, when you guys see this, we are filming this the day before, but to Juneteenth. And this one's Ned E. Williams. And I don't know if you still package it this way, but this was super cool.
Hmm.
So
I
um,
do.
I don't want to tell the story. I've told this story a few times, and I never know if I'm telling everything right or not. Can you tell me the story behind Nettie Williams? But before I do that, I just want to kind of show you guys this so you can see it. So kind of see comes like this, and it's just so beautiful. Then you pull it out, and in here, it's going to come in, and you've got the bottle. Look at that. So tell me about Nettie Williams and the significance of the man, and then talk about the fragrance a little bit, because I think this is such a special and unique fragrance.
Okay. Well, Nettie Williams is my third generation
Yeah.
grandfather. He was a slave. He was educated by a family who was also known as the slave masters, which was unheard of at that particular time. He was very well mannered, well dressed, even during those times. He and his wife, both my third generation grandmother. He was in education. He founded the first African American school here in East Texas, which it existed and then they tore it down and then it was resurrected or rebuilt. I believe it was around 2013, if I'm not mistaken. And they had a ribbon cutting and everything. And I was still living in Dallas, Texas at the time. But once my family moved back to Longview in 2016, I actually was the music teacher. I served as the elementary music teacher for the 2019-2020 school year. So not only did I have the chance to serve under his former leadership, where my aunt was also the former principal as well, but I was able to capture his life in fragrant form. This was a project that it definitely was not rushed. Um, I had attempted a couple of years prior to it actually launching, and I just kept feeling intuitively it's not time yet, or it's not quite ready yet. And I don't try to rush or push anything. So I said, okay, when the time is right, I'll know. And when the time was right, I knew. I intuitively started receiving the types of materials to use and the packaging. Everything is it's simple, but it's elegant, and that also speaks to how he carried himself. Um, I, of course, did not meet him, but I just assumed that he was a man of few words. But when he did speak, he spoke very eloquently and he paid a lot of attention to detail. If you're into astrology or know anything about the zodiac signs, he was a Virgo. His birthday was in September. So he's very meticulous, very methodical, very analytical. So when I created this fragrance, I wanted to not just capture his life of slavery, but also him being able to overcome such what could have been a very tumultuous time, and also include his educational background as well as how I envision him to smell. So this fragrance, and I have it here, it opens with not just one type of top note. I'm going to spray mine on here. You can see it. I wanted it to open with some freshness. So you have some citruses. It opens with blackberry and also black tea. So it's very rich. When you spray it, it's not like, oh, this is a fougere, or oh, this is a citrus aromatic. As soon as you spray it, you get that depth. And that is exactly what I wanted. So it's almost like everything comes to you at once, and then it starts to morph into its own story on your skin. So those top notes of blackberry, citruses, that black tea, everything is, I wanted everything to be seamless, not just, okay, now I smell the top notes, now I smell the heart notes, now I smell the dry down. I wanted it to tell a story on the skin. So you have the opening, and then you have like a hint of a rose essence, and then it goes into the felt pen ink and books, which of course there are no particular materials that are called felt pen ink or books. So I had to create an accord of choya raw and um, some oak moss to kind of create this older feel without it being ancient, but you definitely get like, okay, this definitely
It
takes me
definitely,
back. That's exactly
yeah,
what
it
I
definitely gives
wanted.
me like antique vibes. Like when I smell
Hmm.
this, I envision myself being in an old, dusty schoolhouse, with the wooden slat floors and the old leather bound books and the felt pens,
Hmm.
and you're surrounded by the South, like, your rich, deep, vibrant uh, greenery, like the denseness of the Southern woods and the grass
Hmm.
and the flowers. Like it's amazing. So this, like a lot of people, a lot of reviewers would say this is a winter fragrance, right? But here's the thing: it smells. It has the effect of being in a schoolhouse in the spring, because you can smell the fresh, berries in the woods. And like, just imagine a schoolhouse in the middle of a field and surrounded by woods, and the spring is coming alive and all the plants are coming alive. It feels like it's literally transports you, you know what I mean? And it brings you to that moment in time. And I think you're absolutely right. It doesn't feel like you're in 2025. Like it feels like you're back then.
Hmm.
Um, but what I think is so special is just that you have this story, coming with it. And from the packaging to the bottle to the provenance to his history. And I think you're right. I think him being a slave is only a small, minute portion of the story that goes along with it, because it really is a story of not only success for himself and his family, but for all the people that were affected by what he could achieve in his life. Because like I don't know if you shared this part, but the school still exists, right? And you taught there, so um,
Yes.
that's something that only people could dream to have, to be remembered that many years later, or to have something still exist on Earth that they created that many years later. And that
Hmm.
in itself is a massive achievement. So I think that's so special, and I think he's definitely smiling down on you for continuing to keep that story alive and to support what he built. Because like on this thing here, it says slave 1864, and then professor 1945. Um, I think this is the part that really, because that's what you see here. You don't see a slave. You see a man who did some amazing things. And
Hmm.
to me, that's just
Absolutely.
a big part of what this holiday is about, right? Like, uh,
Yes.
you know, we are not where we came from. We are who we are today. We are who we are every moment of every day. We are the choices we make, not the choices we made, but the choices we make today in this moment. Your
Absolutely.
journey as a perfumer, as a mother, has brought you to some amazing places. You know, uh, you've had some amazing success, and so have I a year ago. From where we were to where we are today, it's all part of that journey. So I think we all have a
Hmm.
reason to celebrate today, right? Anyway, so you have some new
Absolutely.
releases coming out. Tell me a little bit about that.
I do. This is summer
Yeah.
specific. If you remember, we were talking, and I was like, I don't necessarily create for
Right.
seasons because I am one who will pull out a freshie in the dead of winter. If I'm feeling, if there's no sun and I'm feeling kind of low, it's just cold and we're stuck in the house, I will wear something that helps to transport me to a
Mm.
warmer climate, even if it's just
Yeah.
telepathic. So the first fragrance that's going to be launching around June 21st is called
Mm.
Mango East. And as the name denotes, it is going to be centered around
Ooh.
mango. And I know that there are tons of mango fragrances. However, I wanted mine to incorporate just a hint of
Mm.
kiwi. So this is going to be a mango kiwi vibe with some neroli as the florals and what I would like to call like a salty skinned musk. So imagine you just cut this mango open and you get a hint of that freshness. Your mouth is watering a little bit, but you also get a little bit of the rind as well. So not just the meat of the fruit, but you also get the outside to give it a little bit of that freshness. And then the second fragrance is called O with the line over it. And it is simply, there is a story behind it. You'd have to, those of you that are watching, you would have to visit our page on Instagram to get the true story behind O. But it is simply when you are not able to put something into words and all you can say is, oh, or either it's, oh, wow. So this particular fragrance is centered around a cranberry ginger ale. I love sparkling water. That's my favorite beverage of choice. And I went into one of my suppliers one day and I saw this cranberry ginger ale and it caught my attention because it was the last name of someone that I am connected to and think very highly of. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to make a fragrance out of that. So you have two different vibes going on. We have a mango fragrance and then we have a cranberry ginger ale. Both fresh, but they both have a lot of depth. And I'm actually very excited. Not that I would ever do this again, launching two fragrances back to back, but it's summer. My birthday is in August, which is when the second
Oh, wow.
fragrance O launches. So I said, why
Yeah,
not?
my birthday's coming up July. In case anybody watching wants to buy me something. I'm just
Nice.
playing. No, so I want to talk about that mango fragrance for a minute because I've smelled many mango fragrances, and mango in itself tends to be a rich, dense fruit. Like the flavor is a denseness, but then also the smell. Usually, when you smell mango in fragrances, it
Hmm.
tends to be very sweet and just strong. And I
Hmm.
love neroli. It's one of my all-time favorite florals. And when you mentioned neroli, I thought that makes so much sense, especially for something with more summery vibes, to take that denseness of the mango and then combine it with the neroli, which
Hmm.
kind of gives it this almost like fresh, uplifting, effervescent accord. And then
Yeah.
yeah, that just sounds phenomenal. Uh, wow, I gotta try that one. Cranberry ginger ale sounds very interesting as well because um, I don't know. To me, when I think of cranberry ginger ale, it always seems to come out during the holidays. Um, but I
Hmm.
understand, like, I don't know if I've ever smelled a ginger ale fragrance, but that to me sounds very summery because ginger in itself has this sort of like spicy little bite, but then there's the effervescence of the soda, and then you've got the sweetness,
Hmm.
and then the cranberry. Cranberry to me, even though it's usually more for the winter months, is more of a summer fruit. So that just makes sense. Um, Also, with your fragrances, like I've literally had this for like a whole year, and I think it's missing like this much because I sprayed one spray. Like when I mean that, when you spray a tiny bit of your fragrances, it goes a long way. Because Like, honestly, I sprayed this on just now. I'm gonna still smell this tomorrow after I scrub in the shower. Like, it'll still be kind of there. I don't know if I told you this, but you sent me another fragrance. I can't remember it. I can't remember what it was called, but I got a little. I had sprayed a little on my winter coat, and I stored it for the summer last year, and I think I pulled it out in like March of this year, and it still smelled like it. It was in my closet. I was like,
Wow.
"Whoa!" It was very faint, but I said, "What's that
Wow.
sweet?" Oh, that was what that was. Yeah. So, like, yeah, when we
Hmm.
say nuclear, a
Wow.
lot of your fragrances are very nuclear, but also they have this way of um, like now that this is drying down a bit, you can really pick out the individual notes and the individual. You know what I mean? And it's
Hmm.
so nice. Now on skin, it does tend to, fade after a long while, but um yeah, I mean, these are not like like one of these, right? Like you can't compare these because like this right here, very nice, but I mean, this is like what's the percentage of oil in something like this that you have? Like
Um, I want to say 22%.
yeah. And you're using like
Yeah,
a lot of you make your own tinctures as well, right? A lot of the tinctures you make
I
yourself, so
do.
like nobody could ever steal that or recreate it. Yeah.
No,
And that's super cool as
I
well.
try, but
Yeah.
yeah.
That's super cool. So it's 9:30, well, it's 8:35 now. You still have a little more time, or do you want to keep going, or?
I have
Okay,
a few
awesome.
minutes. I did receive a message, so they're on
Okay.
their way.
Yeah, because I know you had mentioned before the podcast, you said you might have to cut out a little early. So this might not be a full hour, guys, but I think we got some good stuff going. So tell me a little bit about that. Like what's that like, when you're crafting a fragrance and you're trying to chase a certain scent? Like what goes through your mind when you're like, okay, this is how I want to create this tincture or something? Like what is the creative process like for you?
With each fragrance, it's different. Of course, every idea that I have, I approach it differently. So I'll just talk about Ned, for example, and then another fragrance in contrast. With Nettie Williams, I knew what I wanted. I knew the vibe that I wanted. I knew the feeling. So that's usually how I start. I think that's pretty synonymous across the board is I'm usually looking for a feeling
Yeah.
first. Sometimes it is where, okay, I know I want to work with this material. So I'm challenging myself to work with this material. But for the most part, it's a feeling. So with Nettie Williams, I wanted to create a feeling and take the wearer on a journey of his life. So it wasn't that I said, okay, I know for a fact I want to use leather. I actually tried to shy away from using leather, but then realized I can't tell the story
Mm.
without leather. He wore a leather belt, and that was not necessarily common. This was a very nice leather belt at that. These were luxuries during his time, so I had to use leather. So for me, it's about starting with a template. And I think in terms of musical notes and aspects of music, because I'm a musician as well. So it's like building a song. Do I want this song to be instrumental? What what type of instruments do I want to use? Do I want this to have a choir? If so, do I want it to have a soloist? All of these things are going through my head as I'm creating trials. And sometimes, I don't know if I still have his over here. I don't think so. I think I went through about 3 or 4 iterations before I said, this is it. And it was only after I added what I thought was too much leather, but intuitively I heard add more. So when I did, that was the result. And I said, okay, I'm not going to mess with it anymore. So it's a balance of once I put all of the materials together, once I've created this musical song, how do I know when to stop without overdoing it or without messing it up? Do I have in my mind, okay, yep, this is going to be a beast mode? No, not at all. I just know what the percentage is as far as the perfume strength. but I'm not ever trying to create a strong fragrance or an astronomically long-lasting fragrance. The fragrances just kind of take on a life of their own once I have created them, and I think that's the joy of the diversity in the fragrances that I have to offer. Now, on the flip side of that, when I know for a fact I want to use a particular material, then I'll build
Mm.
around that. With Mango East, I literally went through, I have two of them back here. I went through different ways of
Mm.
approaching it. And I was still torn up until maybe 2 days ago of which version I'm going to launch. And there may be a second one. It just kind of
Yeah.
depends. Because it was just that
Mm.
hard for me to decide which version really speaks to Mango East. They both do. However, there are some small nuances. So with Mango East, I knew I wanted to work with Mango. So I'm building around that. Okay, what's going to support, like we were talking about earlier, what's going to support the density of this fruit so that it doesn't go rank
Right.
on the skin after a while, and it's not just traditional mango, but it has different other supporting actors and actresses, if you will, with the music playing in the background with the neroli and hints of kiwi. So the process is very different according to my mood, according to the type of fragrance that I'm launching, and the story that I want to create on skin behind it. So, but it's not easy. I'm not, making light of it. There are several hours worth of different versions that I usually go through before I decide. And even then, sometimes I'm like, oh man, did I launch the right version? And then sometimes it's like, yes, this is it. Leave it alone. Don't do anything else to it. So I think like an artist, when they feel like, okay, maybe let me just add one more brush stroke. And then you add that brush stroke and it's like, dang it,
Yeah.
I messed it up. So now you have to go back and take that brush stroke out, hopefully before launch, and kind of start over and do a revision. I think that's why some brands launch maybe an old fresh of a fragrance that they have already launched as a way to say, hey, we also had this idea. We're just gonna save it for
Yeah.
another season. So yeah, it's
Mm.
a process. It is
Well, I
definitely a
think that would
process.
be I think that would be super cool. Like if you had like a 2.0 or something of a fragrance or something. I've never seen anyone do that, but
Hmm.
that would be pretty cool to say, well, this is the alternative version that we created, and we're gonna, leak this out as a limited release, or maybe even release them back to back and see which one people like. I mean, let the people decide. I mean, that would be super cool.
Hmm.
Hey, we're thinking, right? It was funny though. You were just saying how, about music and everything, and looking at you on camera right now. I don't know if you can see yourself, but you look like a conductor, and all the little bottles is your orchestra. You look like a conductor in front of your little orchestra behind you. So I think that's kind of a cool
I
because
can
you're
see
talking
that.
like that. I'm like, she's a little conductor in front of her orchestra. Well, hey, thank you
I can
so much
see
for
that.
coming on. This was super special. I really appreciate this. And
Thank you.
um, let me just say, for everybody watching, on this Juneteenth holiday, I just want to say that you know, go out and support your local Black businesses, and then also get out and support your local small businesses. Because with all the things
Absolutely.
happening, um, with the economy and everything else, I think Walmarts and Amazons, they got enough money. The small guys, the ones that are grinding every day, that are going to continue to create and innovate and give you things that are unique and different and let you explore amazing stories like Nettie Williams. Um, we can't lose this. We can't lose our ability to be able to experience these type of things and support amazing artists such as Chavalia and Pink Mahogany. So if you guys haven't gotten a chance, definitely check out pinkmahogany.com. That's mahogany with an H after the G. So it's PinkMahoghany.com. Uh, Thank you so much for coming on. And I can't wait to try
Thank you for having
those
me.
new releases. And we'll hopefully we can talk about them
Yes,
on the
absolutely.
channel. If you guys don't know the channel, as you should, it's A Fragrant State of Mind on TikTok and YouTube. So definitely check that out. Yeah, thank you so much. And anything you want to say before we close out here?
Other than thank you for having me, and thank you all to everyone who is watching, and who will make the decision to support. Your support is definitely appreciated. And even if you do not financially support by purchasing, feel free to share a story, tagging us. Every share, every like, every form of engagement definitely helps more than you will ever know. So even platforms like this, thank you so much, Derek, for giving me the opportunity to share again one of the fragrances that are near and dear to my heart.
Thank you so much. Well, hey, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I love you all. And as always, have a fragrant state of mind. This has been a Fragrant Mind podcast. Be sure to visit afragrantstateofmind.com or subscribe to AFSOM on YouTube. As always, have a fragrant state of mind.